Welcome to the SMS Podcast. I'm here today to review the new epic from Francis Ford Coppola, which is what Francis Ford Coppola would tell you. That's right, I'm here to review Megalopolis, Megaflopolis, Mega app where I save nudes on. And it stars some of the biggest actors in Hollywood 20 to 30 years ago. Well, I guess Adam Driver, he's not really one of the biggest actors in Hollywood. I guess he is, I don't know. Maybe if you like to show girls. It also stars Shia LaBeouf, Dustin Hoffman, who does nothing in this movie, Jon Voight, who's off his dementia meds. Obviously, it's directed by Francis Ford Coppola. He only directed this small independent movie. It's called The Godfather. You ever heard of it? Godfather Part 2, Godfather Part 3. Ooh. Apocalypse Now. You ever heard of it? This is his first movie since 2011, which is some weird-ass movie with Elle Fanning when she was like 4 years old. This movie, it's his passion project. He made it with his own money. He had to sell his fucking winery, or I think he sold parts of it for hundreds of millions of dollars. The movie's budget is literally $120 million. I'm shocked because the whole movie looks like shit. What is the plot of this movie? So this movie starts off with narration from Laurence Fishburne, who narrates the whole movie in these riddles that make no sense at all. He warns about the potential of the American Empire, that it's gonna fall the same way Rome did. And it starts off with Adam Driver on top of the Chrysler building. He stops time, he's about to fall, and time just stops. So then we cut to Julia Cicero, the daughter of the mayor, who's played by Nathalie Emmanuel, the girl from Game of Thrones and Fast and Furious. She plays the daughter of Giancarlo Esposito, and he's the mayor, and we see her partying with fucking Shia LaBeouf and Chloe Fineman. And they're brother and sister, but Shia LaBeouf wants to fuck Chloe Fineman, which is insane. And they are Caesar's cousins, of course. Claudio wants to fuck Julia, obviously, but obviously it's Shia LaBeouf, so she doesn't want it. Of course, the mayor isn't happy about it. He keeps reading the tabloids like his daughter's Paris Hilton. So then we cut to Caesar Catalina, who's demolishing a building. He's using his Megalon, which is crazy. Motherfucker, that's Godzilla villain. How did Francis Ford not remember that? So he uses Megalon to stop this building, but Julia can see that it's freezing. Apparently, she's the only other person that is unaffected by the Megalon. Then we see Caesar win the Nobel Prize. We then see Caesar going to this press conference, and it's this weird-ass building. The press conference is on scaffolding. I mean, we get it. It's in New York. And that's when we see Aubrey Plaza's character, Wow Platinum, which sounds like a perfume. And this is when we also see Jon Voight's character, Crassus, because it's supposed to be like ancient Rome, get it? So then we also see Dustin Hoffman in this movie, who has nothing to do, except it's about these shitty-ass lines. There's this line he says later in this movie. He goes, "They say the only thing that's bigger than Crash's bank account is his prank." Like, what the fuck? Why do you have Dustin Hoffman saying these shitty lines? So we see Caesar. He puts on this over-the-top display. He announces that he's going to remake New Rome with the Megalon. For some reason, Mayor Cicero hates Caesar, and he doesn't want to go through with the plan. And he brings up Caesar's dead wife, who died in these mysterious circumstances, alluding that he murdered her. And then we see Caesar go home with Wow Platinum. I guess Aubrey Plaza saw girls. I don't know. Then we see Julia go over to Caesar's to argue about this angry letter that she sent him. And they talk about how he has this rivalry with her dad. During this scene, we get this horrible line of Caesar being arrogant. And he's claiming that he reserves his time for people who can think about science and lit and art. You find me cruel, all that bullshit. And he finally goes like, so go back to the club and stalk the people you could think. Like, what the fuck is this line? Who wrote this shit? So he sends Julia away, but then she reveals that she also can see the megalon taking effect, and he's like, interesting. So then they start working together. So Julia becomes curious about Caesar's past, about how her father was the district attorney that tried to charge Caesar with his wife's death. It was reported that she died on an insulin overdose, but that she was found in the ocean. So she stalks Caesar, basically. She follows him around the city. But at the same time, we see Shia LaBeouf following him around too. We find out that what Caesar's doing is that he's going to his wife's memorial, some shit like that. And he's still in love with her, obviously. Eventually, we see Wow Platinum marrying Crassus. They hold this wedding at a coliseum, and this is probably the worst scene of the movie. We see this pop star, and she's auctioning off her virginity, whatever the fuck. We see Caesar's mom. We also see the mayor's wife, who's played by Catherine Hunter, who has nothing to do in the movie. We see a wrestling match. We see a chariot race, which we get it. It's ancient Rome. We get it, Francis. It goes off the rails. This auction. They're trying to buy this pop star's virginity, which is so dumb. And during this scene, Caesar's talking about how it's an act. I make them think I'm not a good person. And then he goes and snorts something. I thought he was snorting coke, but it's not that. He's snorting some psychedelic drugs, and then we get this horrible scene of him being high and shit. And then we get this dumb shit. Him and Julia playing tug of war. Imaginary tug of war. So all while this is happening, Claudio tries to frame Caesar as a statutory rapist. He gives him this fake video. Apparently it's fake. I don't remember if shit was fake or that it was Photoshop or that he actually did fuck her. So the crowd turns on Caesar, and then he gets beat up. Then he gets arrested. But Julia eventually finds out that the pop star is actually 23. And apparently the video of her and Caesar was doctored with her face added to another one's body. So it didn't really look photoshopped. But who knows with this shitty-ass cinematography. Caesar gets exonerated, but he loses his power to stop time. And then we get the scene where they're on top of his building, I guess. And of course, when they're together, he's able to use his power. She's like, do it for me, babe. And he doesn't. So dumb. So in the meantime, we see Claudio conspire to bring Caesar down. And he tries to take down Cicero. All while this is happening, this Soviet satellite breaks apart and rains down onto New Rome. And then we get this scene, which for some reason is in the movie, even though they're not able to fully do the same. This scene where someone in the audience goes to talk to Caesar, but of course, there was literally two other people when I went to go see this movie. He talks about how his plans to set up Megalopolis are in motion. And then we see Julia announce to Caesar that she's pregnant. Then they have dinner with their parents to tell them the news, and Cicero's obviously pissed. And then we see Claudio campaigning for the position of alderman because he gained followers from these protesters. But this gets Dustin Hoffman killed. You see what I'm saying? This movie makes no sense. It's just bouncing scene to scene. Cicero tries to bribe Caesar with info about his wife in exchange to leave Julia. But Caesar rejects it. Then we get Wow Platinum trying to seduce Caesar again. But obviously, he's already with Julia, so why would he do it? And then we get this goofy-ass scene of Caesar getting gunned down by a fucking child. Like, we're in Africa, and he's a child soldier. Like, what the fuck? But of course, Caesar lives, they use Megalon. I don't even know how it would work. He got shot in the fucking face. How would this Megalon heal him? Because all Megalon is able to do is stop time. How would it heal his wound? How would it regenerate his face? It makes no sense. So Claudio condemns his minion Aram to make Caesar look like a martyr. And when Caesar leaves the hospital, he finds out that his bank accounts are frozen, and he tries to fix it by going to his uncle Crassus, but he gets no help. And then we get this goofy-ass scene of Platinum seducing Claudio, and she's telling Claudio, take over your uncle's company and become the CEO. And for some reason, Crassus is like, wow, you want to take over the business, kid? And Claudio's like, yeah, I could be like the CFO. Yeah, why not? And they try to take over. So eventually we see the birth of Caesar's kid, and their kid's name is Sunny Hope. Oh, God. Cicero is joyful about his new granddaughter. In the meantime, we see Claudio. He has made his followers become full-on rioters. Then we see Platinum and Claudio visit Crassus, and Crassus is posing like he's dying or that he's senile. Then we finally see them both get killed. Well, one of them gets killed, and obviously a reference to that Dustin Hoffman line, we see they assume that it's Crassus's dick that's erect, but it's really a bow and arrow, which is insane. And Crassus instantly kills Platinum. He shoots her in the chest, and he shoots Claudio in the ass, which is crazy. Things get out of control. Caesar confronts the protesters. He gives this epic speech, and everyone goes on his side. Crassus is like, oh, I'm gonna fund the rest of the construction of Megalopolis. And then later on, I think it's like maybe a year later, we finally see Megalopolis is complete. It looks absolutely terrible. They're all gathered there for New Year's. Caesar stops time just before the clock strikes midnight. His daughter's unaffected by his powers, and the end. So let's get into the positives and negatives of this movie. The only positive I can think of is Aubrey Plaza's performance. I mean, she pulls off some of the most garbage lines I've ever heard. Caesar, you're so anal, but I'm so oral. Like, what the fuck? And then she had to deal with Shia LaBeouf in that scene of Shia LaBeouf trying to eat her out. It's insane. So let's get into the negatives. This whole movie is a complete negative. I mean, it looks absolutely terrible. It looks like it has jaundice. The whole movie looks like Francis Ford Coppola's liver was leaking onto the camera lens. Like, what the fuck? Why is it piss yellow the entire movie? The dialogue is absolutely atrocious. That line from Caesar, go back to the club. What the fuck are we doing? And that scene was really bad too because of Nathalie Emmanuel's dialogue. She's like, how dare you talk about me like that? So bad. Even Laurence Fishburne's dialogue was absolutely terrible. His narration made no sense. Rome falls. Like, what are we talking about? If you want to go see Laurence Fishburne's voice work, go watch that goofy-ass Transformers movie. That's probably going to go on streaming soon. Most of the acting in this movie is also terrible. It's like every single actor in this movie is in a totally different movie than what they're supposed to be. Giancarlo, he's very serious, but he's still very hammy. John Voight's just there. He's like, did they change my diaper yet? I felt the same about Dustin Hoffman. They give him these horrible lines, like the line I mentioned earlier about Crassus's prick being bigger than his bank account. Also, this movie's so dull. This movie isn't even that memorable, especially compared to Southland Tales, which I keep seeing this movie get compared to. At least that movie's memorable. That movie made no sense either. But at least you could see that it was clearly inspired by 9/11 and America after Bush became president. And all the memorable scenes, like that scene of Justin Timberlake lip-syncing to that Killer songs, All the Things I've Done, none of that is in this movie. None of this movie's memorable. It might be memorable to people who have never seen an interesting movie in their lives. I keep seeing people say this is a masterpiece. Like, have you never seen any great movie in your life. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? How would you even say this is a masterpiece when this is the same director of Godfather Part 1 and 2 and Apocalypse Now? What the fuck are we talking about here? Another thing I forgot to mention was these kids that interview Julia Cicero, they tell her that they're a part of their school's paper, Dingbat News. Are you fucking serious? Dingbat News? What the fuck is wrong with you, Francis? That's some shit that Sofia must have told Francis about like 40 years ago when she was still a child. What the absolute fuck? I just can't believe that you blew $120 million on this when Richard Kelly was able to scrounge up $17 to $30 million for Southland Tales, and that movie looks way better than this one. It didn't have that piss yellow filter on it. It was actually entertaining. This shit isn't entertaining at all. But then I'm gonna see people say, well, that's the point. It's not supposed to be entertaining. It's supposed to be a prophecy. It's the future. What are we fucking talking about? No, it's not. It's a lame attempt at making his version of Metropolis or his version of Atlas Shrugged. But yeah, that's all I have to say about this movie. I would rate this movie a 4 out of 10 at most. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching this video. Go like, comment, subscribe. Bye.